Hey guys, we're going to start the day off with a little bit of wedging, but before that I just wanted to talk a little bit about today's pot. It's referencing yesterday's pot, and I really like the way that I finished that top part, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so today I thought I'd try to replicate that, at least that top part. So that's what we're doing. Right here is a maneuver to sort of get that smooth on the bottom, so then when you hit it on the wheel, it kind of splats outwards, so you reduce the air bubbles that can happen on the bottom. Just like double slapping it. Today I tried to take it pretty seriously. I didn't do any talking in the video, trying something a little bit new, but I also wanted to make sure that I'm treating the clay a little bit more seriously sometimes. I think if you go into it with just this play mindset, sometimes you don't get the pots that you necessarily want. You gotta treat the clay seriously. Using the hammer and the body weight, you can always get it centered. Right here you can see I'm kind of getting a volcano, and so I'm taking my thumb and I'm peeling it down, and then I'm trying to get that little the curve on the top. Make sure you keep that, just because you don't want it to fully volcano, and then you can sometimes trap air if you don't get rid of the volcano part on the interior there. Going a little bit slower with the hole in the clay this time. Like I said, usually that's where I fumble it a little bit, but just trying to do a little bit better at doing that sort of stuff. Trying to round off that edge here, making sure that bottom's smooth too. You don't really need to smooth out that stuff, but I think it helps when you're doing a pole. And so you can see right now I'm thinking about if I want to how I want to finish that interior. This time I decided that I would just do the rib and just make it smooth. Other times I like to make the spiral. Sometimes I like to do a pattern. I can even take like a little tool and make some sort of carving on that bottom too, or some sort of design. Cleaning off that edge, just because sometimes you can, if you don't clean your tools, and I never do, you can build up a little bit of like a kind of like a hard clay, or even dry clay, and it can get into your ceramic object. You don't necessarily want that. Doing that first pole, it's my favorite pole. And I noticed, and you'll see here, that this first pole, it wasn't the best. I think I got a little bit of uneven amount of clay on the top, and you'll see that coming through later in the video. But I noticed it, I compressed it, and I tried to get it as smooth as possible, and I went right into the next pole here. The music that you hear in the background, I've been like listening to it like non-stop, just on loop too. Sometimes I'll just pick a song and I'll just like listen to it for a long time. Just thought it was a good vibe. I've been running to it a lot. I think it came from like some sort of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse edit, but I didn't even watch the movie. I just kind of like that song from the edit. Here, just trying to get that clay. So you can see I'm really trying to slow down my poles here. Sometimes if you go a little bit too quick, you can really throw things off. Right there, I wasn't pulling up towards my nose at the end, and I let it kind of get away from me. But that's okay. Usually you can just collar it in, but when you collar it, you can even see that uneven clay on the top. It's coming through a little bit more there, and I'm just trying to compress it, make sure it's tight. A little bit of collaring. It's not really great collaring there, but usually when you go a little bit slower. I'm taking my rib here and I'm going to compress that exterior. I noticed that I don't really have that many more poles on the top, and so I was like, you know what, this would be a good time to sort of get some of that slurry off the surface and compress that clay so I can do a little bit more shaping with this one. Alright. Here I am. thought that was my microphone fell out, and did you see me pick up that sponge? Like, I just set out a sponge to fix my microphone in the video, but it's kind of cool. It was like just like span around on the wheel, and I just like landed in my hand. I wasn't even phased. I looked so cool. But just doing another poll. This is I think one of the last of the polling for height. Maybe I do one more. I can't really remember. But I noticed that you still can see there's a little bit of thickness in the clay. But recently, what I've been trying to do is use that thickness bottom and push it downwards. All that stuff that I would be trimming off, I now can make it into an element of the design of the ceramic, right? Just another little thing. Like I always say, trimming, I think, is kind of, you don't really need to do it. At least in my practice, it's not doesn't have a big role. And so usually I go out of my way to use what would be trimmed off in some sort of different manifestation. And so that you can see in this video, this is one of the ways. This top is making me a little bit nervous, you know. I'm worried that because what I want to do is I'm going to collar that top in, sort of make more of like a traditional vase shape. And the more you collar in something that's uneven, the more it's going to just get a little bit wonky on the top. But, you know, as long as I already got it thin enough, so I don't need to pull it, but I just need to get it in, and so I can establish the shoulders of the pot nicely. Really focusing on that top. I would almost say maybe I'm overworking a little bit. I didn't need to do that much. And here I am. I'm doing like a pole that's also like sort of a collar. So I'm trying to establish the shoulders. So I'm going actually downward. It's like a downward pole. And I'm splitting the pot in half. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to try to, when I do the pole from the bottom, I'm going to try to meet the shoulder of the pot. And so just trying to get it like a nice area. And so here you can see, and when I mean nice area, I mean just a nice area for the clay to meet itself. Sometimes if you do too big of a belly, it can throw the top off. But if you create a shoulder, I found that from the top going down and then halfway and then meet it, sometimes you can get a better result. And I've had less deaths on my pots for that. And you can see this top is really getting wild, but that's all I need to do is I just need to get it established, and I'm going to collar it in here. And if I can just get it just right, then I'm okay. You know, I want it to look like it actually has like some shoulder to neck ratio, like maybe like referencing like a human. I think that's like a good, it has a good drama to the pot when you do something like that. And I was just trying to get that top, and then Hero's just like I think I'm just gonna start doing the last pole. Get it a little bit wobbly on the top. Really nervous. It's okay. And I think right there, leaving it a little bit wider on the top, it will help out later on. I'm also making sure that my rim is nice and sharp. Sharp rim on these pots is really important. Thick rim I don't think looks as nice. I also do try to make sort of a sharp rim on that bottom part later on. And then here I'm starting my just sort of my design. I don't even know what you want to call it. Just like the twist of the pot. It's essentially just a pole, but really drastic, and so it's kind of fun to make stuff like this. And right now you can see I'm establishing them with that first thing, and I'm going back, and what am I doing? I'm emphasizing, right? A lot of ceramics is just repetition and doing the same thing over and just slowly building up, right? You don't want to go too crazy, and if you do go too crazy, you got to go crazy all the way. That's a shout out to a friend of mine who always says that, and I really think when he said that, it made a lot of sense to me. And so here I am. I think it's a good height. The twist is established well. It looks even. It looks solid. And so right here, I'm gonna start the top pole. Really slow, really dramatic. I only get one shot on that. You can't redo it. And so just trying to get some like really weird sense of movement on the top. And now I'm looking for a place where I can make my my foot flap inwards to make that sort of floral shape. And eventually I'll be setting like a flower, ceramic flower into that slot, bending it down. And so it's sort of like just kind of like guiding it in, but you don't want to make finger marks on it, right? And so I also pulled that tip a little bit just to make it come to more of a point rather than sort of like a tongue. I think on one of my pots recently it looked more like a tongue, and I kind of wanted to come to a point. I do think that it adds a little bit more drama when those two curls are coming in towards each other. I mean, I think it just looks really like sexy. I also like the way that the twist on that top part sort of comes around the pot and folds into the belly of the pot. I think that's a cool way that the pot sort of uses the interior space as a design element. Now I'm just establishing that bottom part, and I'm just thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? Drying off my fingers. I'm getting ready to make the flange. I've really been liking how these have been turning out. And so you see on one of them I go a little bit too short. And you can see that one right there. Yep. And so that one, it just, I'm going to fix it here. And that's okay. I just didn't get my timing right. I could feel it. I was going a little bit too fast because my fingers were drifting to match the pattern. And so that's a good way to know if you're going a little bit too fast. If you feel like your hands are getting pulled around, then you're going a little bit too fast. Just slow the wheel down and you'll see it'll work magic for you. Yeah, really liking the way this pot turned out. Just examining it, you know, all the best in strong mentality. I didn't even say anything. All right, peace, yo.